factual statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyAccess.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. It's time to talk Aqua and Orange. Miami Dolphins fans. Here's a man with incredibly high standards. In fact, he isn't impressed with Tyreek Hill's dominance, Jalen Waddle's speed, or even Teron Armstead's swag. It's the Essential Moving Experts Miami Dolphins Exchange with Joe Schad. When you're looking to move your home or business anywhere in the U.S. from coast to coast, call Essential Moving Experts at 305-602-8369. Flat rates and no surprise charges. EssentialMovingExperts.com. Call 305-602-8369. Let's talk football. Here's Joe Schad.
All right. There he is, Joe. Keep your name out of my mouth, right? Or out of your mouth. Damn it.
That was interesting today.
That was good. I was ripping Ryan Clark today on the show for being a complete idiot. Really, because, I mean, you know what, man? We could question James Harden. We could question Johnny Manziel. We can question, there are plenty of players that you and I can name that we can question their character, who they are as people, whether they did something or not. We can say, this guy's kind of shady or whatever. I mean, I just thought you're trying to be a smart ass, but at the same time, you're being really insulting. And you know what's weird? And you went to Florida. I defended this guy all the time. Not as a player. I knew he couldn't play quarterback in the NFL. That I was convinced of. But it was the weirdest thing how everybody went out of their way to take shots at Tebow, the human being, when there was nothing wrong with him. The rest of us, we're the ones that are faulty. People like these guys, they handle everything the right way. They even handle criticism, and they take on. My God, Tebow took on so much criticism, and Tua does too. And it's, it just gets to a point. It's just weird, man. You know what I mean? It's weird when these aren't the kind of people that you really should go after for silly, stupid shit like this. I don't know.
Well, I was there today, and I was able to listen to Tua Tagovailoa's response to Ryan Clark. And I was taken aback. I've never seen that side of Tua. It was cool. It was cool to see him stick up for himself, defend himself. He obviously felt that he had been disrespected, that Ryan had used comments that were not appropriate. Bringing up an Atlanta stripper, that just didn't make any sense. I mean, look, obviously, we all miss on jokes sometimes. Obviously, Ryan swung and missed on that particular joke. That was a dumb joke.
Yeah.
And I mean, is Tua carrying a little extra weight this year? Yeah, but it's by design. He's certainly not fat.
That's the other thing. Like, bro, come to the facility, see the guy, and then tell me he's fat. It's like Florio saying that, I don't care what they list him at. He's 195 or something. You remember that he was doing that shit last year? And it's like, bro, have you been around this guy? He's not a skinny guy. I know he's not tall. I get it, but he's not a skinny guy. And he's 215, 220 or whatever. No, he's 195 or whatever, And it's just, and Ryan Clark, the same shit. It's like, bro, go look at him. He's not fat. I'm fat. Okay? I'm fat. He's not fat. I mean,
one thing Tua said is that he'd rather not have as much muscle weight as he does. He would rather play at a lighter weight, but obviously the people advising him, the people around him, are suggesting that having the extra weight is to his advantage.
Of course, and you already see it with the foundation. At least you give yourself a chance to control your head a little bit more because your neck and your shoulders are a stronger base now. For you. So they obviously worked on all of that, and it makes all the sense. Look, man, is all this stuff going to work to a T? No. And you guys asked them about that again today. But it'll help at one point or another. Is it going to help you in every situation? Of course not, dude. There's no way it's going to help you in every situation. But at least you have to commend the man for doing the best he can to prepare himself again for this season. I don't think
part of the problem with guys like Ryan Clark, and it's not just Ryan Clark, it's Stephen A. Smith, it's a lot of folks who have that type of platform. They get really dug in. Ryan should have just said, yeah, that was a bad joke. I really whiffed. And
Right.
by the way, I've since learned that there was actually a plan to add weight and add muscle, and that this wasn't just Tua eating too much and not training properly. So,
And by the way, do you know
listen, we
Tua?
all make mistakes. He should have just said, "Hey, you know what? That was a bad segment by me." No, he should have just said that, and
I know, but
he
there
he
are
didn't bring himself to say it.
but there are character people in this world that you kind of don't question. You kind of know the real pros. And he's one of those kind of guys, bro.
Well, Russell Wilson carried too much weight last year, and that was a valid storyline. Obviously, the coaching was an even bigger factor.
Yeah. That was, and maybe he's older too now, and that's that's another thing that comes. As you get older, you start to carry a little bit more weight and all that kind of stuff. It happens, unless you're Joe Schad, of course. Then you always look fantastic. But most of us, it happens. You get a little older, you pick up some more weight. It's kind of the way it goes. But I just think some of these people that are pros, like you don't question them, dude, and just like to say that about that guy. It's just kind of ridiculous. To me, I compare it a lot to Tebow. Different kind of lightning rods, but still lightning rods. And it's the weirdest thing. It's kind of like in that story that when they approach like Bradley Chubb approached Tua, like, bro, why are they always talking about you? That kind of shit. And it must be weird for the players inside the locker room because they kind of deal with him every day. And even you guys deal with him every day. I mean, it's just kind of odd the way people pick at him. Strange.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a polarizing figure. He is a top 10 NFL draft choice who was drafted despite a very serious injury. And now obviously the concussions are a huge factor. And so, every single segment that is on television is if Tua stays healthy, if Tua stays healthy. And so I think Tua is just he kind of showed he's a little tired of it, and that Ryan went over the edge.
Right.
Ryan really
Right.
went too far. And when you're on a bunch of TV segments and a bunch of TV shows and a bunch of TV segments and a bunch of TV shows, sometimes you say something you wish you could take back,
24/7 cycle, bro. 24/7 cycle is the worst thing that's happened to us because we're all
Ryan's claim that athletes and coaches shouldn't be asked about his comments. I don't agree with that. You have to, if you make a comment on the air, I always believe that it should be something you're willing to say to somebody's face.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hell yeah. For sure. But I mean, it's just, even if you say it to his face, that gains nothing. You know what I mean? You're just being an asshole now at this point. On top of being stupid, now you're being an asshole.
Right, but
I mean?
Ryan is expressing that it's dumb, in his words, that athletes and coaches have to answer questions about his comments. The thing is, he's not just like Joe from Hialeah. He's a former NFL player with the platform of being an NFL analyst. That gives him a certain amount of credibility. If he says that he believes that Tua is carrying too much weight, if he says that he believes that Tua is not taking care of himself in training and with the trainer's table, that's a bold, important statement. We're not going to just ignore it.
It's a bold, irresponsible statement. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
I'm saying with that platform comes a certain amount of responsibility. And when you mess up, it's hard to know every detail of every player on every team in the whole league. But when you make a mistake, you should just say, "Hey, you know what? That was a bad segment. That was a bad comment."
That's like me questioning Alonzo Mourning's conditioning. That's like me questioning Jason Taylor's conditioning. That's the way I look at Tua. I look at him like those pros those guys that are truly committed to their craft. And that's the part that I find. You know what what I'm not sure of is Ryan Clark, because I guess we have to define it this way. Is he a believer or a non-believer of Tua? Because I kind of feel that the non-believers have to latch on to whatever they can to try to win that argument.
When you say believer or non-believer, you make it seem like a religious or political.
It's become that.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
It's very Trumpish. Very Trumpish. The people that are following, they're already wrong. They've been wrong. They were wrong about the election, all that. But now they're so dug in that now they can't back out, because if they back out, they look so bad. You know?
So you're comparing Tua, you're comparing Trump supporters to Tua naysayers.
Yes.
I haven't heard that particular comparison.
Well, because most people don't have the balls to say that about Trump and Trump supporters. That's why, my brother, because everybody trembles and all that shit talking about Trumpies. I don't. That's the difference. They're all afraid of Trump, talking about the elephant in the room, the obvious thing. They were all wrong, and they can't admit they're wrong, and they were wrong about the election, and they look like horses' asses.
But it's also true that Tua non and the Tua supporters have their own sort of group.
But the Tua non-believers, haters, whatever, they're just like those people. They look like horses' asses because he was in the MVP race last year. So those of you that said he was too short, didn't have an arm, couldn't play, this, that. So now you're wrong, but now you're dying to find and grasp anything to try to, make yourself believe.
I don't have any evidence that Ryan Clark is a quote Tua hater.
I don't remember.
I'm saying I don't have any evidence of that.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't remember if he was a believer or non-believer. That would be, the difference there. But that's
I don't know. I disagree with you.
So dug in.
Can I speak? I disagree with you on this point. I don't think Ryan Clark's opinion about whether or not Tua is likely to stay healthy and or likely to be a top 5 quarterback and or likely to lead his team to the playoffs or Super Bowl at any point in time is actually related to his inappropriate, dumb joke about Tua's weight. I think it's totally unrelated. That's my opinion.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. And mine is, I'm not sure. If he's a non-believer, if he's a believer, then you're right.
Why do we have to separate people into one of two groups? That's what's wrong with this country.
I know, but that's kind of the way it's turned.
Well, it's terrible.
That's my experience with the non-believers. They try to grasp on
anything. But you're feeding into this notion that you're either with us or against us.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way.
I know, but unfortunately, they've turned it that way. So
who's they?
The non-believers.
Oh, come on, man. I don't believe you. I don't think you actually believe this as much as you say.
I certainly, but I see it all the time. It's everywhere. The ones that don't believe, they will find.
You keep saying believe like we're talking about religion.
Like if he can play or not. No, you're taking it to there. It's just, it's become that, but it's either you can play or not. So either you're a believer in
it's just football, man. It's just football. Look, any knucklehead could see that he's an accurate passer. No, have you ever heard anybody in the last 12 months say, yeah, you know what? He's not accurate.
No, you can't say that.
Well, okay, so nobody said that. Has anybody said that he doesn't have a good winning percentage as a starter?
No, there are still people that believe he can't play at a high level. They still think that. I still get people to say, oh, well, Tua needs a great team for him to perform around him.
Well, yeah, but every quarterback performs much better with excellent receivers.
I try to tell people, my brother, but you have common sense. There's people out there that are still, they think he got lucky last year.
Listen, I watched Tua today.
It's crazy.
Okay, and I've watched him in many, many, many practices. Okay, not everyone has. I have a lot of practices. He was extremely accurate, very impressive. No, I'm telling you, today in practice, he was so accurate. And there's no reason to believe that that's not going to continue into the season.
He's always been an accurate quarterback. That's one of the reasons why the only thing that ever scared me about Tua was his injury history. His ability to me never, ever.
Now, it sounds like he's going to play on Saturday. I wouldn't play him.
I wouldn't have played him last week, but I understood why, and I understand now too. Although I kind of understand your point because they ran for 200 yards this past week. It's like, but maybe Jacksonville is a little bit better competition. So
And
maybe
they're playing their starters.
Yeah, and I think they want to give Wynn and those and Jackson, another goal round. You know what I mean? So
you can put Wynn and Jackson out there without Tua.
But I think that they want the same cadence.
Mike White practiced today, so I think he'll be clear. You'll have 3 quarterbacks.
But I almost feel like they want to have the starting unit, even with the starting quarterback, so they can get just a. But what I don't think is maybe they don't play a lot, Joe. Maybe it's just a quarter. Maybe it's just a couple series. But again, give them a couple more reps, and then they'll keep those guys in for a little bit more because the line kind of needs it. And by the way, they're getting really good work for Kendall Lamb, which that's the
Kendall
thing.
Lamb's been good. Isaiah Wynn's been decent.
Under the radar that you're going to get an Armstead injury. And Kendall, since training camp, because Armstead doesn't practice a lot, that's been priceless, the amount of reps that he's gotten there at left tackle, man.
I don't know that I want to put Tua out there less than 3 weeks before the season or 3 weeks, right?
Makes sense.
I don't. Let's see, Saturday. Is Saturday 2 weeks? It's 2 weeks in a day, right?
Today is 18 days.
Right. So Saturday will be 2 weeks in a day. So I don't want to put Tua, Tyreek, Jalen, Teron, X, Javon, Jalen. I don't want. I wouldn't put those guys out there. I wouldn't.
Hard to argue with you, bro.
You got all these joint practices, and they busted their butts. All right, and now you got Christian. Does it annoy you that Christian Wilkins is like sitting on the side watching with the clean jersey?
Not yet. It'll only annoy me if he doesn't line up for the regular season. For this stuff, it's understandable, bro. This is part of negotiations. You just hope it doesn't get where the Chris Jones thing is now.
8 weeks is his plan.
That's what. No, and Andy Reid saying, I'm not worried. Next man, whatever. We'll, Andy Reid kind of drew a line in the sand, today. So that was kind of like, whoa, wow. So it's you hope it doesn't get there, but
the Dolphins have played this really well. Mike McDaniel, Vic Fangio, very complimentary, very supportive.
They did it with
very X. Well played.
They did it with X, and X had baggage, and yet Chris Greer and company were like steadfast and positive and all that.
They probably regret giving Ogba what they gave Ogba. And there's an argument to be made that if they give Wilkins huge money, they will end up regretting it because he's not a huge sack guy. Because he's not. Now, I wrote pay the man. I'm just saying they're thinking.
Yeah, I just think you can't look at it that way. Shit happens. You change schemes. And now Ogba doesn't fit the scheme that you have. And so you got to go through another year of dealing with the salary, and then you'll move on. I mean, shit happens, Joe. You can't plan that when you give them that you were going to fire your coach and you're going to make all these changes and bring in a new defensive coordinator. This is stuff that you can't plan for sometimes, and it happens. And, you end up regretting it. But I don't think you ever regret signing a guy like Christian Wilkins because he's incredibly productive. He's been more productive every single year. Maybe his sack numbers start going up. Will he be Quinnen Williams ever? I don't think so. That's not who he is. He's not Aaron Donald. He's not Chris Jones. He's not that kind of player, but he's still impactful in his own way. So, it's kind of like, did you go to the Hall of Fame? No, right?
No.
You didn't know how it went, right? So we had 2 different kinds of corners on there. We had Darrelle Revis and we had Rondé Barber. And it was interesting because I really compare the Christian Wilkins situation to Chris Jones and Aaron Donald. And it was one of those things like Rondé Barber, it took him a couple of shots to finally get in the Hall of Fame. Darrelle Revis went in first ballot. Do you know what Rondé Barber said? He goes, I had to create myself into a different kind of player because I wasn't him, and he points over to Darrelle Revis, and he goes, man, you're really special. You got in here first ballot because you are first ballot. I had to learn to do other things. I had to get
Yeah, I mean,
sacked.
I hate to slam Rondé Barber, but like when I watched him, I didn't think, oh, that's a Hall of Fame player. I
Well,
didn't.
but he did other things, and you had to watch him every day and watch him in every game, and that's probably how you'll. It's the Zach Thomas thing. People around the league, like you, there are other reporters that probably don't appreciate Zach the same way either, unless you watch them and then you watch the impact every single week, and it goes kind of under the radar. And Rondé did things that others didn't do, like the fumble recoveries and things like that he had more than anybody else. And those are things that he explained, that he had to turn himself into a different kind of player to become a Hall of Famer, because he wasn't that kind of Hall of Famer. And that's kind of interesting, because the league is littered with that. The guy that went in for the Jets is a different kind of defensive lineman, and I watched him, and he was the only guy on the New York Sack Exchange that I would have put in the Hall of Fame. And I always questioned, why the hell wasn't that guy in the Hall of Fame? But he's different than Jason Taylor. He's not going to have the numbers of Jason Taylor, but he was going to have the impact. You know what I mean? It's just, it's screwy like that.
As I get older, guys who are getting into Halls of Fames, baseball included, I start to sort of shake my head. Like,
Okay.
someone recently said, that they should have a separate floor for like
the elite,
a smaller group of guys. I think that would be cool. I think that would make sense.
Yeah, you're right. Barry Sanders is going to be different than another back going in. I get it. Walter Payton and that kind of shit. Yeah, those freaks of freaks. Like Aaron Donald. The way we look at Aaron Donald, we don't look at any other defensive lineman in the league like Aaron Donald. None.
We can call it like the Platinum Gold Club or the Gold Club, something.
Yeah.
And then have like.
So what's
like
your
two guys from every year, 20 guys from a 10-year period.
So what's your gut tell you, my brother, that with this whole Christian Wilkins thing, because it's been like Fort Knox trying to get information.
They'll pay him.
Either side. I think so too. I think it's going to get the week leading up into.
They usually pay the guy. They usually pay the guy.
Yeah.
They usually pay the guy.
Yeah.
This was a Greer pick. He was the first pick of the rebuild era. He is a hard-working guy. He is a key member of the locker room. He's got work ethic, discipline, toughness, positive attitude. I think it'll get done.
All right. What stood out from practice besides Tua being deadly accurate?
Yeah, it was a quiet practice. Cam Smith was there, which was good. I don't know if they'll hold him out on Saturday, but he said he'd like to play a little bit. Tua said he'd like to play. Zach Sealer got a little banged up.
Joe, Cam starts outside. Cam starts outside. Kohu starts inside, right? Is that your prediction?
Yeah, except that Vic Fangio said yesterday that he still has to earn his trust. Thought that was an interesting comment. I know. Yeah. I mean, he's 65 years old, and the Dolphins have a really good defense as long as Cam Smith doesn't give up a couple of mistake touchdowns. We saw that with Igbenogany, his growing pains.
Cheating over, helping the kid out until he could take the training wheels off.
Cam Smith explained that in this defense, you get help. It's basically not the Flores Boyer defense where you're one-on-one, man press, no help. Right. So that is a good point working towards Cam. When there's only 2 corners on the field, X and Kohu. When there's 3 corners on the field, move Kohu inside.
Okay, so
you got to go with Cam Smith over Eli Apple and Noah Igbenogany. You got to, as long as his shoulder is good enough. And he suggested, he's going to have to play through some soreness, but he's done it before. He's familiar with his injury.
Okay, all right, so that's cool. Zach Sealer got banged up.
Yeah, worked through it. Maybe they just hold him out on Saturday. Doesn't look like anything huge as far as we can tell.
He doesn't have anything to prove.
Tyreek Hill watched, but it might have just been a rest day.
Okay. Any other injuries? Any other nicks?
No, Mike White returned.
Good.
No, the guys that you didn't expect to practice didn't practice. Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle. hopefully they're not out for too much longer.
You're not into the Jonathan Taylor stuff. It's silliness, right? You're not on.
Well, I don't think they'll do it because it costs draft capital and more money than they want to pay a running back.
Okay, all right. If they want to give them away in Salvation Army, they'll take charity,
Right.
but they're not giving shit. I mean, just look at all the other running backs. Nobody got anything this offseason. Nobody got traded. Nobody got a big contract. I think those days are done, by the way. Okay? I think it's a real ugly situation for running backs from here on out. Many of them will never see a second contract ever again after they get drafted. I just think it's one of those things they're going to have to live with 1-year contracts, 2-year deals, incentive-laden deals. I'm sorry, but that's kind of where we're headed. And I don't know why people in the media especially are arguing so much about this when it's been laid out on the table for all of these running backs this offseason. Either they took major pay cuts or they never got what they wanted in extensions or money. Nobody's getting paid.
The running back is a luxury addition. Dolphins need to go ahead and take care of Christian Wilkins first.
Yeah, and Sealer and all those other guys that they got coming up. It's crazy, man. All right, what do you got going on the Palm Beach Post?
I post something about Cam Smith, so check it out. And also a cool story about how Vic Fangio and Mike McDaniel are complementing each other. Column that I wrote, posted it yesterday.
Yeah, it's really good. Let me tell you something. Are you impressed that a young coach like this, by his second year, has been able to really round out, except for Danny Crossman, but overall a pretty damn good staff from offensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's a good staff.
Coach, defensive coordinator, pretty damn good staff, dude, for a young. We saw Philbin and Flo. They could not build staffs, dude. So that's incredibly important that a coach can.
And the Dolphins offensive linemen are saying that they think Butch Berry is a good coach. So I wouldn't know. All I know is he yells a lot. But if they say he's a good coach, then it's an improvement.
Well, we'll see, bro. Hey, Kendall Lambs look pretty good. So we'll see. Maybe he's got a little some to him. Who knows? Follow him on Twitter at Shad Joe. And more importantly, please, folks, subscribe to the Palm Beach Post and support our local journalists like I and many others do. Joe, thank you, sir. Have a great week. We will catch up next week, my friend.
All right, bud. Be well.
You've been listening to the Essential Moving Experts Miami Dolphins Exchange with Joe Schad. When you're looking for local, home, long moving services or office relocation, call Essential Moving Experts at 305-602-8369. Flat rates and no surprise charges. EssentialMovingExperts.com. Call 305-602-8369. Miami Dolphins fans, follow Big O Radio Show on all platforms to keep up with your favorite NFL team.
This is the Big O Show.